Good morning, Year 7. Very excitingly, you are carrying on with your second lesson this week into our inquiry in the Civil War, or rather the English Civil War. Now, you're going to go ahead and, as normal, go into Teams. You might be on the web browser, which might look slightly different to this, but still works the same. And you're going to go into our Year 7 team. Now, you'll notice that there are 2 assignments currently on our posts. You must do Lesson 8, Week 5, Summer Term History first. That is the lesson. Do not go and do the quiz until you've done the lesson. Loads of people last week did the quiz without doing the lesson. Don't understand how you've done that because you won't know the answers. It's pointless you doing the quiz. So I'm going to click on View Assignment here. You'll see that actually takes me to assignments here at the top. And then I'm going to go to Student View because this is how it will look for you. And you'll see all the instructions there. Now, a couple of things before we start. Firstly, as it says, when you do the quiz, in questions 12 and 13, the questions, all of them are correct. You pick one answer based on your opinion. And also, as you'll see, some of the tasks this week, you will need to complete those on paper at home. Okay. As always, you've got a couple of options. First, you can click print. You can print this out at home. You can do it on paper, take a photo, upload it onto Microsoft Teams, like I've shown you in my video. If you've not seen the video, go and check out our YouTube channel and check out the video there on how to use Microsoft Teams. You are going to need to click, though, Edit Document. I'm still getting some people telling me, sir, I can't change anything on the document. It's because you've not clicked Edit Document. I don't know how many times I've told you. I don't want to have to tell you again. So click Edit Document. Then you're going to select Edit in Desktop App if you want to do this on your own version of Word at home, and then upload it to Teams. Follow that video again. Or if you don't have Word, click Edit in Browser, and that means you can edit the work here. It's going to take a while to load. It might also move things around, but don't worry. It changes back once you've finished and once you close it, and it doesn't really matter anyway. So the first job is to read the date and title, and you can see, the title, that today we're talking about what happened in the English Civil War. Second job is to do the Quizlet task. Write a definition of why the Civil War happened in 1642. If you're not sure about that because you didn't do the last lesson, well, you need to go back and do the last lesson. Simple. Secondly, you need to write a definition of the word parliamentarian, which handily is up here. And then thirdly and fourthly, put the time periods and key events in order along the timelines. You're always going to type where it says type here, okay? Should take you about 10 minutes. Pause the video here, do those tasks now. Okay, so why did the Civil War happen? Well, there are lots and lots of reasons. You could talk about anger that different groups had, the parliamentarians or the royalists or the Puritans who were angry for religious reasons. You could talk about the way that Charles ruled. He was a ruler who believed in the divine right of kings, and lots of people disagreed with that. You might say he was a tyrant, and lots of people were angry about that. These are all things that if you're not sure what I'm saying, because you haven't done the last lesson, you must go back and do it, or you're going to just be lost. The word parliamentarian, as it says above, is Parliament supporters during the Civil War. What was Parliament? Well, then we're talking about the government, the Houses of Parliament, the House of Commons, the people who lead the government of Britain. Those time periods in order. Well, the first one should be Anglo-Saxon England from 400, roughly 440 AD until 1066. Next, you should have medieval England from 1066 until 1485. The Tudors, a third, from 1485 until roughly 1603. And finally, the Stuarts, 1603 until roughly 1714 AD. And those events in chronological order. Well, first of all, Charles I becomes king in 1625. And then from 1629 until 1640, Charles I, that's when his personal rule, or 11 years tyranny, takes place. In 1637, Archbishop William Laud and Charles I try to introduce a new prayer book in Scotland. And in 1642, Charles I raises his flag in Nottingham, sparking the English Civil War. As it says, in this lesson, we're going to look at the Civil War and what happened. We know why it started in 1642, and we'll explore what happened in the Civil War and who won. And we'll also think about the causes of victory in the Civil War, how the war was won. Because we're doing something called causation, or causes, in this lesson. That's a key skill in history where we try and understand why things happen, what caused them. Now, as it says, this next task you're going to need to complete at home. Now, we are all going to do, first of all, question 1, and all read the timeline carefully. It should take you about 10 minutes to do it properly, so pause the video here, read the timeline now. Okay, now once you've done task 1 and you've read all of the timeline, that means the yellow boxes, you've got a choice. You can either go on now and do tasks 2 and 3, or you can go on and do the challenge tasks, which are a little bit trickier, tasks A, B, and C. Now with tasks A, B, and C, you're going to need to go and look at this table, this yellow table here, because some of the words like triggered and underlying and things like that are in that table, okay? So you're going to need to go and look at that first and work out what those words mean. Now there's one word that isn't in there, which is inevitable, but I think I put it somewhere. No, I didn't. When something is inevitable, it means it's definitely going to happen, okay? So if you're doing the challenge tasks, well, you can pause the video here and crack on with tasks A, B, and C now. If you're doing tasks 2 and 3, well, as I said, you're going to need to do these on paper. But task 2, you're going to circle all the battles and locations named in the boxes. So for example, if I look here, Prince Rupert, Charles I's nephew, wins the Battle of Brentford down the road from school and then burns the town. Well, I'm going to circle Brentford, and you'll also notice Turnham Green is on here too. So it's a double whammy here because the Battle of Turnham Green happens a little bit later in 1642. So I'm going to circle both of those, and that's going to do part of task 2. And then I'll keep reading, try and find other battles and circle those too, okay? And then task 3, I'm going to add the missing dates to the battles on the map. You'll notice some of them, like Marston Moor, Naseby, Edgehill, they haven't got any dates on them. I need to find those dates and add them. The battles, by the way, are the ones with stars. These ones with diamonds aren't battles, so you won't find one for those. Those are cities, look, York and Oxford, okay? That should take you about 10 minutes to do that task. Pause the video here, complete either tasks 1, 2, and 3, either task 2 and 3 or A, B, and C. Or of course, if you do 2 and 3 and want to push yourself more, do A, B, and C too. Complete those tasks now. Okay, now hopefully the next task looks a little bit familiar to you if you did the previous lesson, because it's pretty much the same. What you're going to need to do is, as I said, do this on a piece of paper at home. You might need to draw these boxes out before you can do it. But all you're doing is connecting the boxes by drawing arrows to show how the middle box, the yellow one, was caused. And our final event here is that in May 1646, Charles and his men surrendered to the Scottish army, and the Scots double-crossed Charles, betrayed him, and sold him to Parliament, which meant that Parliament had won the Civil War. So what you're doing is trying to weave a web of causation, a web of causes that will help us to explain how it came to pass that Parliament won the Civil War in May 1646. Now you can do this, as it says, by connecting boxes to the middle box, or you can connect boxes to each other. So what do I mean by that? Well, in November 1642, Prince Rupert wins the Battle of Brentford and then burns the town. I could connect that directly to the yellow box with an arrow, because I know that that leads to the Londoners joining the parliamentarians. They've got lots of money. It's a battle that's being lost. Prince Rupert isn't the best general, it seems, because he seems to lose quite a lot. I could draw an arrow here and connect those two. I could also connect November 1642 to the November 1642 next door, that Londoners, scared for their property, after he burned Brentford, they join Parliament. I could also then connect that to the Battle of Turnham Green, and that meant Charles I's armies never returned to London, which was a hugely important place, of course. And then I could connect all three of those, each connected by an arrow. Now I'm going to draw an arrow to the yellow box in the middle to say that all three of those were kind of like a chain of cause and consequence that led to Parliament winning the Civil War in May 1646. So you can draw really arrows however you want to show exactly how this event was caused, the yellow box. Like I said, do it on paper. You're going to need to draw these boxes and things out. Pause the video here, do it now. Should take you about 10 minutes. Sorry, I should have also said, if you finish, you can move on to the challenge task at the bottom, where you're adding these special sophisticated causation words. What I mean by that is words that describe different types of a cause to each of the events above. So for example, you might say that Rupert burning down Brentford sparked or triggered a parliamentarian army, including 24,000 Londoners, to defeat Prince Rupert at the Battle of Turnham Green. You might draw that along the arrow between these two, but then you might write the word underlying or latent on your arrow between October 1642 and May 1646, because that was an underlying cause of the Civil War. It took a long time from 1642 to 1646 for losing London to mean that Charles I and his royalist supporters lost the Civil War. Okay, so if you finish, move on to the challenge and add these words along your arrows to show what type of a cause they were. Okay, last job in this lesson then. You're going to write a claim paragraph answering the following question. Explain how Parliament won the English Civil War in 1646. And of course, if you'd like to, you can by all means write more than one claim paragraph. You must also use at least one of these words from the yellow table in your answer to describe some sort of a cause, like I said, okay? Now, as extra help, as I say, it's going to move things around. Don't worry, you can type underneath. But extra help, I've given you a structure strip here, which talks you really in lots of detail through the types of sentence starters that you should be using for each section of your paragraph. Remember, in a claim paragraph, we follow claim, evidence, explain, therefore, or summary. The last thing I'd say before I set you off and you go and finish this off, if you would like to challenge yourself, then don't answer this question at the top. Answer this question instead. Explain when Parliament's victory in the English Civil War became inevitable. It should take you about 10 minutes to write a detailed, in-depth claim paragraph. Pause the video here, write your paragraph where it says type here below now. Okay, well, I hope you've had fun writing your paragraph and found that lesson interesting. I certainly think the Civil War is an absolutely fascinating time. And if you go and look on YouTube and search things like reenactments, English Civil War, or the Sealed Knot, you can see lots of people who today dress up in costumes from the English Civil War from the 1640s and go and have battles, recreate these battles for the public to see on fields all around England. I remember going to them when I was about your age. I grew up in Gloucester, and there was a big siege in Gloucester called the Siege of Gloucester. And there was a huge reenactment there about sort of 25 years ago that I still remember. It absolutely fascinated me and was amazing to see people firing real muskets. So get on YouTube, look up the Sealed Knot, look up English Civil War reenactment. If you're interested, it is a sight to behold. And I'll look forward to talking to you next week for our next instalment of information about the Civil War in England.